We're back. You are listening to Soul Perspectives here on CKUT 90.3 FM. My name is Kim Dominique-Ferguson. I'm in studios with
Renee Jordan.
And on the line we have LT's local jazz hip-hop musician, singer-songwriter, international touring artist, and just released a new single called Questions. You can check out that video on YouTube. It also has an EP, I believe, because I always get confused between EP and LP.
So EP is just a cut down album. Yeah. I think so EP like is the way that tracks? Artists exactly, and it's like it's not an album, so you're not putting. You're putting stuff into it, but you're not putting as much work, I imagine, that you would maybe put in for an album.
Right. And before the break, you spoke a little bit about some of the work that you draw inspiration from, especially Marvin Gaye, his song Mercy, and What's Going On. And since you were on that vein, wanted to ask you who are your musical inspirations? Like who do you look to as your guides, so to speak?
So yeah, definitely absolutely love Marvin Gaye. I really like his song I Want You To. That's so I actually have a playlist on my Spotify that I created of all of the songs that I was really listening to during the creation. And I'll give you some names from there. But I mean, like, my base of music inspiration is, I want to say Jimi Hendrix, absolutely love. And when I mean like bass, these are just artists that music that come get me in another place because I've lived with that music for so long and stuff like that too. So off the top of my head, Jay-Z, Jimi Hendrix, definitely put Marvin Gaye in there. At a point, Eminem. Like now I'm not a super fan of his new stuff, but to say that he wasn't a huge influence on me growing up, and his earlier work to me are masterpieces. So definitely throwing M in there.
I love
Miles
the
Davis,
the diversity
sure.
of your choices. So you have Jay-Z, hip hop icon, Marvin Gaye, R&B, Jimi Hendrix, rock.
Yeah, I got Miles Davis in there too, for sure.
So you got that jazz in there.
Oh, absolutely. His album kind of blew while I was listening to in CJEP, and that's kind of just the album that I always have liked the music, but that specific album kind of blew. And a lot of beginner jazz people will tell you that too. Like that's the go-to famous album,
Right.
Like just man, those riffs on there just freaking are classic. So that specific album just kind of like launched me into like this musical universe of understanding musically different. Coming from being a hip hop head and just listening to R&B and hip hop and like pop music on the radio. The structure of jazz is different. It's free. It's like liberating. Because nevertheless, the hip hop that's on radio. There's some abstract hip hop that in arrangements are different, but the stuff that people push is structurally is the same.
Yeah.
So once you start appreciating, there's other music that's like that. Some electronic and classic, but specifically, those kind of music lack the soul aspect of things, I find. But not all electronic music, because house music is all about the soul. But definitely the jazz, man, and it kind of. And at that age, that's when I started kind of switching over to more making a jazz-oriented hip-hop. And, like, so, listening to Miles kind of just opened me up to, I know quite a few jazzmans now, like, I know my trumpet player and my more the old guys, I'm not too up with what's new in jazz. I am, though, but, like I was listening to Dinner Party the other day from Robert Glasper and Kamizu and Terrence Martin. So yeah, definitely jazz has a huge play, and all of those artists blending in. I have a song called Pain off the EP, which like has a crazy guitar solo at the end, so kind of like that Jimi Hendrix influence comes in there. And I love to arrange my music. I like to have a lot of sections, like things coming in, coming out, so, and that also comes from listening.
So you actually write the notes that goes behind the music that you're playing, or not really?
Not really, no. Well, I mean, I kind of work with producers closely, and I'm there for the production of kind of everything. You know, like we'll listen to a couple songs that inspire me in the moment and kind of go off that vibe. So that's kind of how we work.
Yeah. So
you mentioned that some artists, they sort of get into a structure, and like, so usually when you hear them or you listen to a song from them, like if you hear a Drake song come on the radio, you automatically know that it's Drake. If you hear something from like Chris Brown, you know, they all have like a typical flow that goes with their music. Would you say that your music is not as predictable because your musical tastes are so varied?
No, because I don't think so. Because when I mean free, I mean like non-structured music, like free jazz. Because I make hip hop, so no matter what, there's gonna be a type of structure in there, right? There's gonna be a type of 16s, right? Maybe it'll be 12 bar and a pre-hook and then a hook. Which that's the
style of your music, will it be like, okay, well, yes, that's a LTs, or are you for artists that it's like, oh, I didn't know that he could do that style, or I didn't know, it's like, let me come up with something a little bit unexpected.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely trying to head there, you know, like, that's the goal, you know, but sometimes it's hard sometimes, you know, to venture out on different sounds. So before I start like going crazy and having super like left-sided albums, I'm kind of concentrating on developing a certain sound that is out of the water and original to myself. So to answer your question, yes and no, you know.
My question to you though is what made you decide to fuse hip hop and jazz together? Because to my recollection, there are not very many artists that have done that. There's been a big fusion of hip hop and R&B. I would say Drake had been the kind of almost the pioneer of that, because he was the one who really started singing on.
Well, 50 was doing it, man.
But he was more of a.
I can't say it was Drake.
I didn't say that Drake started it, but he was a pioneer.
But he made it mainstream. He made it mainstream.
Yeah, in that
like
it really got popular around the time when Drake started hitting the airwaves, because he was singing more on his tracks and doing rap at the same time. Like I find that 50 Cent was more like, his rap was a little bit slower and more groovy.
That's true.
But he was still rapping. He wasn't singing.
Drake's really singing on his hooks and rapping in his verses. So that's a big versatility there. Yeah.
Nelly may not have been as serious, but he was singing.
Nelly too. Nelly's serious, man. Nelly's serious.
So my question remains, what made you decide to fuse jazz and hip hop together?
I think it just came naturally, because jazz is like kind of like the father of like all popular music, like R&B, everything, rock, you know. So, and I think, and hip hop is just so blendable with everything, right? So I think, and it's a straight up direct link. So what's crazy is that like the hip hop culture today kind of like determines what's cool in the world, right? Like, the coolness of everything passes through hip hop, you know.
Yeah. Same
thing with jazz at the time. Like, you know, white people wanted to go on 52nd Street and like, hey, you see those cats tooting their horns? Like jazz was the cool thing, you know. Like it was the cool, you know. It was the cool. Same thing as hip hop, and you know, both African American music that started from the streets, both of them, you know, and also both of them also kind of like were put against the wall at the beginning, you know, when kind of free jazz and bebop came out. People were like, what is this, you know, jungle music, you know? And it sounded like jungle music too, but they just couldn't catch it, you know. Same thing with hip hop, when, you know, that it first came out, like, what is this garbage and all that stuff. So, you know, there's just, so historically they're the same, right? So, and I love everything that's jazz, but like, you know, a lot of jazz is neo soul too, and that kind of realm of music, you know, the D'Angelos of the world. So it's not pure jazz. It's just kind of like I love music with like blue chords in them. You know, we kind of like
what's
on
a
the.
blue chord?
So like a blue chord is like is I want to so a blue chord I would like to say is a kind of a chord that you strike that wouldn't be kind of like what you would think, right? Like you would be playing the chords and then normally you would think, oh, this is the next note logically, right? But you hit kind of like something else that's kind of has more of like a blue feeling.
Right.
There's a specific place on the chart where you hit it. I wouldn't be able to tell you in the specific notes and chords that are blue notes and blue chords. I do not know them, but I do know the sound, and that's what triggers my ears.
Okay.
And really.
So when you say blue,
sound.
blue, is it just a specific note, or does it correlate to like blues music?
So no, it correlates to blues music, but also all music, right?
Okay.
So I'm actually taking singing classes and piano classes, and there's actually a whole chart of color and notes and music actually.
Wow.
There's like orange and red, so you can even like look that up, like a color and music and stuff like that, and like they all have notes. You know, like certain colors are these notes and like these chords and stuff like that. So yeah.
Well, that's interesting because I remember our former DJ Sirius used to talk to us about music, and he used to say that there are certain people who can see colors in music, so they see the frequency of colors in music. He said famously, oh my God, what is his name? Pharrell Williams is somebody that sees the musical notes and frequencies and colors. So that's interesting that there's an actual chart of colors that goes along with the musical notes. Yeah. I'll send it to you. My teacher, like that's one of the first things that my vocal teacher actually sent me. She's like, "Oh well, if you're so into music, you should check this out, Music in Colors." Yeah. And would you say that when you're building your tracks, like you have an intention of how you want the music to hit someone in terms of like the emotional response that you'd like them to have towards it?
That's all I really think music is literally that, right? So even like in your words, right? So like when I read poetry sometimes, that stuff doesn't even make sense sometimes, right? It's like, what am I reading? Like these words are not even making sense, like in literal terms, you know? But it did make me feel something reading that, right? Yeah. And I believe that's what music should be, right? Like that's why I'm not, I do make jazz, hip hop, but I'm not against trap and one of these stuck-up people that think, music that has less chords and stuff is not it. That music makes me feel a specific feeling, when I listen to it, and that's what music is about. So to answer your question, yes, 1,000,000%, like I do that so much, even like the music to me needs to be made before I write to it, because the music's going to make me feel a certain way. I'm going to get the theme of the song. I'm going to get the words of the song through me listening to the music that I created, So, in retrospect, I do go in, I'm like, I'm aiming to give this feeling. So let's work towards this way. So, yes.
So you like to work from the beat to the music to the lyrics, or from the lyrics to the music to the beat?
Yeah, from the beat and the music. I write my lyrics to the music. Yeah.
Okay.
And do you find...
Interesting.
Have you ever done it the other way around, where you compose?
I haven't.
so what would be the challenge in that? Wouldn't that be something interesting to try and do?
I don't think it would be. I mean, yes, because I would not. But I don't, because I was gonna write poetry at that point. I'll write a poem.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll write like a 2-page poem of beautiful words. If there's no, it's because
I think sometimes it doesn't fit. Like if you write the words before, sometimes it doesn't fit.
Whereas you can make them fit.
Yeah, because I've done that. I've written poetry, and people are like, "Yeah, I want to put that on a beat or on a hook or something," and then listening to the music, I'd have to modify the poem because I like to use certain words, and I like to like use long words.
Yeah.
And words that have 4 or 5 syllables don't necessarily fit on a 8 bar. And it doesn't rhyme. It doesn't flow properly. So
or it takes up the whole bar.
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we do have to take a little break. If you're tuning in for the first time, we are speaking to LT's, a local Montreal hip hop jazz musician, singer, songwriter. And we're going to take a quick break. You are listening to Soul Perspectives here on CKUT 90.3 FM.